Good day everyone. Welcome to another video lecture in ACC 211. I am your presenter, Ma'am Jazel Macy Del Monte, CPA. And our topic for this video is all about depreciation. So what do you mean by depreciation? Depreciation is defined as the systematic allocation of the depreciable amount of an asset over the useful life. Depreciation is a matter of cost allocation in recognition of the exhaustion of the useful life of an item of property, plant, and equipment. So depreciation is done, it's because of the usage or exhaustion of the of an asset over its useful life. So it is a systematic allocation daw. So meaning to say we will be distributing, or we will be allocating the cost of the asset in over its useful life. The objective of depreciation is to have each period benefiting from the use of the asset bears an equitable share of the asset costs. So again, as part of the objective of the depreciation, it aims to distribute. Okay, it aims to distribute the costs of the asset over its useful life, where such asset or such entity has benefited the use of the asset. So how do we present depreciation in the financial statements? Depreciation is an expense and may be part of the cost of goods sold or operating expense. It depends on the function. If such depreciation is related to an asset that is used for the production of a product, like say for example machinery or factory equipment, then such depreciation shall be a part of the cost of goods sold. Other than those used in the factory or in the production, depreciation on those assets shall be part of the operating expenses. Except for non-exhaustible land, all property shall be depreciated on a systematic basis over the useful life of the asset, irrespective of the earnings of the entity. Again, all properties of the entity except for land, because land is non-depreciable asset. So aside from the land, all properties, or except for the land, all property shall be depreciated regardless of the earnings of the entity. So meaning to say, even if the entity incurs loss from the very beginning, even if wala pa depreciation, still the asset shall be continuously be depreciated. Next, omission of depreciation would misstate the financial statement. So what will be the effect if you were not able to record the depreciation of an asset? So basically, it will lead to misstatement of the financial statement. So in short, mali ang imuhang gi-report na amounts in your financial statement, especially when you report the income statement. So your net income will be overstated rather, because your expense will be understated. So overstated ang imuhang net income. On the other hand, for the statement of financial position in the non-current asset section, particularly in the PPE, the carrying amount of the PPE will be overstated. Okay, will be overstated because of the omission of the depreciation. So there will be misstatement in the financial statement. Now, depreciation period. So when will this depreciation starts and ends? So depreciation of an asset begins when it is available for use, meaning when the asset is in the location and the condition necessary for it to be capable of operating in the manner intended by the management. Again, the depreciation will start when Okay, when the asset is already available for use, even if for the meantime dili pa nimo siya gamiton, basta the status of the asset is already available for use. Depreciation ceases when the asset is this is derecognized. Okay, again, this is not recognized but rather derecognized. Okay, I'll just correct this one. Derecognize. Okay, so what do you mean by derecognize? Meaning to say, it will be removed. Okay, removed from your financial statements, or it will be removed as part of the property, plant, and equipment. Examples of or when do we say that the asset is derecognized? That is when you dispose the asset. Okay, so ibaligya nimo siya, or you just remove that one from the group of your asset. So that is the recognition of the asset. So in that case, depreciation will stop or will cease. Okay, next, depreciation does not cease when the asset becomes idle temporarily. So even if wala siya gigamit, okay, even if wala for the meantime, nag-stop sa imong paggamit sa asset, still the depreciation will continue. Even if, again, it becomes idle temporarily, and at some future time, it will be used again in the future. So, again, pag idle, maski pag idle ang imuhang asset, it will not be, it will not stop its depreciation. Okay, so that is depreciation period. Now, there are different kinds or two kinds of depreciation. We have the physical depreciation and the functional or economic depreciation. Now, first is physical depreciation. It is related to the depreciable assets wear and tear and deterioration over a period. So we can assess that such asset is already depreciated because of its physical appearance. So physical depreciation may be caused by first wear and tear due to frequent use. So sa sige na to o gamit sa asset, medyo nag-deteriorate na ang iyahang nanay gisi, naanay scratches, and so on. Next, passage of time due to non-use. So of course, di ba, pag there's also a disadvantage if dili nimo ginagamit ang isa ka butang, or there is of course disadvantage kung magsige ka o gamit magsige ka gamit sa isa ka butang, and at the same time napoy disadvantage kung dili nimo siya ginagamit or pasagdaan lang nimo siya nga idle. Okay, so in that case, there's a possibility nga it will result into a malfunction on that particular asset. Next, action of the elements such as wind, sunshine, rain, or dust. So naigo siya sa mga mga elements. Okay, naiuban nga dili pwede mahanginan, naiuban nga dili pwede mainitan, maulanan, or maabugan. So pag naigo sila sa kanang mga elements, probably there will be deteriorations on their physical appearances. Next, casualty or accident such as a fire, flood, earthquake, and other natural disaster. And last but not the least, disease or decay. So kani siya, this is applicable to animals na mga PPE. Example, kanang if you are running a zoo, okay? If you are running a zoo, kanang mga animals nimo sa zoo, they are considered as your property, plant, and equipment. So, nagkatigulang na ang imuhang mga animals, nagkasakit na sila, and pag once mamatay, they will decay. Okay? So, this physical cause is applicable to animals and wooden buildings. Another kind of depreciation is the functional or economic depreciation. So, ang depreciation day nato is not only limited to the physical appearance. So, wala nagpasabot nga guba na siya, of course, di na siya magamit. Kaya naman pagyapon yung iban no nga, maski na ay mga scratches, pwede pagyahapon siya magamit, di ba? Now, the other kind of depreciation talks about the functional or economic depreciation. So, this arises from inadequacy, supersession, and obsolescence. So, sa man yung inadequacy, this arises when the asset is no longer useful to the entity because of increase in the volume of operation. So, dili na niya makaya, kumbaga, ang isa ka asset, dili na niya makaya ang production. Okay? Sa sige o gamit sa asset or sa machine or sa property, nagkadugay, di na niya makaya ang volume or increase in the volume of the operation. So, inadequate na ang imuhang asset. Next, supersession. This arises when a new asset becomes available and the new asset can perform the same function more efficiently and economically or for substantially less cost. So, mo nitong mga asset nga naay, kumbaga, naay replacement, and that replacement is much more or is much better than the previous one. Kay mas maka-perform man tong bag-o og more efficient and effective and economically or substantially less cost. So, supersession. And last but not the least, obsolescence. This arises when there is no future demand for the product which the asset produces. So, obsolete na ang imuhang asset. So, at some point, such property may become obsolete in the future. Kay tungod, na naman ta sa technology era, nag-develop perminte ang mga technology. Okay? So, mo nang naiuban nga murag ma-obsolete ang imuhang asset and could not be any more of use in the future. So, what are the different factors of depreciation? So, sabi mga kinahanglan nato. Well, in your basic accounting, you are already introduced with these basic factors of depreciation. So, these are the important elements when computing for the depreciation. So, first is depreciable amount. So, depreciable amount is the cost of an asset or other amount substituted for costs less the residual value. So, depreciable amount is the amount of the cost or the portion of the cost that will be subject for depreciation, because not all cost of the asset may be depreciated or can be depreciated. Kay tungod natin ginatawag nga residual value. So, residual value is included in the cost of the asset and it shall be excluded from the computation of the depreciation. So, mo nang cost less residual value, that will be the amount that will be subject for depreciation. Next, residual value. This is the estimated net amount currently obtainable if the asset is at the end of the useful life. So, residual value or the salvage value, this is the estimated amount that could be the asset or the estimated amount in the future at the end of the useful life that the asset can be sold. Okay? Mo na siya ang residual value or the amount that can be recovered from that asset at the end of its useful life. Next factor is the useful life. So, useful life, it is either the period over which an asset is expected to be available for use by the entity or the number of production or similar units expected to be obtained from the asset by the entity. So, ang useful life di ay daw is not only limited to the number of years kung kanusa lang nimo siya pwede magamit, but also this includes to the number of production or similar units that are expected to be obtained from the asset by the entity. In short, the capacity Okay? The capacity of the asset. Okay? Kung pila lang iyahang pwede ma-produce, pila ka units na yan pwede ma-produce, or pila pod ka service hours ang iyahang magamit, or pwede siya magamit. How many hours or working hours siya pwede magamit. So, moto siya. Those are the different forms of useful life. The time periods as in years. Second, units of output or production. Third is service hours or working hours. So that's the useful life. Now, factors in determining the useful life. So, how do we determine those number of years, those units of production, the service hours? So, we can be guided with these factors. So, first is expected usage of the asset. So, usage is assessed by reference to the asset's expected capacity or physical output. So, moto siya, no? We will be determining the capacity, okay, the expected usage of the asset for us to know pila ang iyahang maximum nga units nga ma-produce. Okay, next, expected physical wear and tear. This depends on the operational factors such as the number of shifts the asset is used, the repair and maintenance program, and the care and maintenance of the asset when idle. Technical or commercial obsolescence. This arises from the changes or improvement in production or change in the market demand for the product output of the asset. And last but not the least, legal limits for the use of the asset, such as expiry date of the related lease. Okay? So those are the factors in determining the useful life. Now, there's a difference between service life and physical life. So, pag may tag-service life, it is the period of time an asset shall be used by the entity. The service life is equivalent to the useful life. So, kanidi ang useful life nato, it's not necessarily means the physical life gyud niya, but it means the service life. Kung hangtod kanus asya, pwede magamit sa entity. On the other hand, physical life, this refers to how long the asset shall last. Kaya na uban nga, even if nahuman na ang useful life, okay, mo nang ginatawag na to nga, maski pag nahuman na ang useful life sa isa ka asset, pwede paghihapon na to siya magamit. So, katong extension sa useful life, mo na to siya ang coverage sa physical life sa isa ka asset. Kung how long ang asset mag-lasts. Okay? So, that's the difference between the service life and physical life. Now, let's proceed with the depreciation method. So, there are 4 groups of depreciation methods. We have equal or uniform charge methods, and examples of equal or uniform charge methods, we have the walang kamatayang straight line method, composite method, and the group method. Okay, the second group, we have the variable charge. Okay, this is not change, but rather charge, or use factor or activity method. This includes the working hours or service hours and output or production method. Kaning first, equal, meaning to say uniform or the same ang ilahang depreciation charges every period. While ang second group, variable charge, meaning to say lahi-lahi. Okay? Lahi ang sa first year, second year, and so on. The third group is the declining charge or the accelerated or diminishing balance. So, declining, meaning to say, on the earliest year of the life of the asset, mas dagko ang imuhang i-charge nga depreciation. And as time pass by, naga-decrease siya imuhang depreciation charges. So, methods under this group, we have the SYD, or the sum of years digit. Second, declining balance method. And the third one is the double declining balance. Other methods, we have inventory or appraisal method, retirement method, and the replacement method. Okay, so let's start with the uniform or equal charging methods. Starting with the straight line method. So, straight line method is adopted when the principal cost of depreciation is the passage of time. Okay, tungod daw sa passage of time. The straight line approach considers depreciation as a function of time rather than the function of usage. So, how do we get the depreciation using straight line method? So, annual depreciation is equals to costs minus residual value, or this is known as the depreciable amount. Okay? Depreciable amount, the difference between the cost and the residual value divided by the useful life of the asset. And this useful life is in years. Okay? Pero kung monthly depreciation ang imong pangitaon, of course, you'll be using the useful life in months. So, in the straight line method also, we can have this what we call straight line rate. So, kaning straight line rate, this is the annual depreciation rate niya. Okay? So, pila iyahang depreciation every year. So, that would be 100% divided by the useful life. Okay? So, example, we have the equipment at costs, 105,000, residual value 5,000, and the useful life of 5 years. So, how much is the annual depreciation? So, we'll just deduct 105,000 by the 5,000 residual value. So, the depreciable amount is 100,000. Divided by 5 years, therefore, the annual depreciation is 20,000. Okay, next method is the composite or group method. Actually, there is a common or similar accounting procedures for these two, composite and group method. Pareha lang sila og accounting procedures class, or the way we compute for the depreciation. But as to the usage or function niya, medyo may kalahian siya. So, composite method, okay, this is applicable when the assets are dissimilar. Okay, so take note, dissimilar. So, composite method atong gamiton if the assets are dissimilar in nature or assets that have different physical characteristics and vary widely in the useful life are grouped and treated as a single unit. Okay, so dili na pareha sa straight line method nga every type of an asset, isa-isaho na to ang ilahang depreciation. Isa-isaho na to pag-compute ng depreciation. But in this composite or group method, all the assets will be grouped into a single unit and then one depreciation lang. Okay? Maski, ano siya, nagsagol ang building dira, machinery, equipment, and so on. On the other hand, group method, again, this is applicable if all assets are similar. Okay? Similar in nature and in estimated useful life are grouped and treated as a single unit. So, ang composite method, applicable siya for the similar assets, while group method, applicable for similar assets. Under these methods, the average useful life, okay, why we get the average useful life? Because again, this is a group of several assets with different useful life. So, since isa lang man nato ang depreciation nga kwaon ani sa ilaha, so we need to get the average useful life. And the composite or group rate are computed. So, ang isa sa mga or ato ang mga kailangan nga i-compute diri under these methods are the average useful life. Okay, or we called it as the composite life, composite, or of course the group life nila. Okay, depende sa nga method imong gigamit. And we also have the group rate or the composite rate. So duha ka buok, the average useful life and the composite or group rates are computed. And the asset in the group are depreciated on that basis. So depreciated ni siya, ha. Okay? So mo na siya ang mga kailangan nato under these methods. So accounting procedures for these methods. First step, depreciation is reported in a single accumulated amount. So since consider ang kaning mga group of assets into as one single unit, okay? So, isa lang kabuok ang ilahang accumulated depreciation. Not like the usual thing that we do, that for each type of an asset, lahi-lahi og accumulated depreciation, butangan na natog apelyido. So, accumulated depreciation building, accumulated depreciation machinery. So, inana siya pag straight line. Pero pag composite or group method, isa lang yun siya. Okay? Isa lang yun siya, or the general accumulated depreciation. Next, the composite or group rate is multiplied by the total cost of the asset in the group to get the periodic depreciation. So, ang imuha daw periodic depreciation or your annual depreciation is equal to the composite or group rate times the total cost of the asset. Okay, total cost of the asset. Okay? Composite or group rate is determined by dividing. Okay, take note of this one. Composite or group rate is computed by dividing the total amount of depreciation by the total costs. Okay, so later on, natay formula ani. And the composite life or the group life is computed by dividing the total depreciable amount by the total annual depreciation. So again, ang iyahang composite or group rate is computed as total amount of depreciation divided by total costs. Composite life is computed as total depreciable amount divided by the total annual depreciation. So, kaning composite life or the average life, mo ni siya ang number of years kung kanus-ani mo siya or sila i-depreciate. Okay? Not dili tong useful life sa isa lang ka-asset, but rather we will be getting the average life of those group of asset. Okay? Third step, when an asset in the group is retired, okay? Pag i-retire daw nimo or dispose ang isa ka-asset, no gain or loss is reported. So, walay gain or loss, not the usual thing that we do. Okay, nga pag i-dispose diba nato ang asset, there will be gain or loss to be recorded if there's a difference between the selling price and the carrying amount of the asset. So, in this method, wala daw gain or loss. The asset account, what you're going to do is the asset account is credited for the cost of the asset retired, and the accumulated depreciation is debited for the cost minus the salvage value. So, ang accumulated depreciation na nimo will be the balancing figure na lang diretsyo. Balancing figure sa cost and the salvage value or salvage proceeds. Okay? Next, when the asset is retired, or when the asset retired is replaced by a similar asset, okay? So, say for example, nakay gibaligya, tapos, at the same time, imura po siyang gikambyoan of similar asset. The replacement is recorded by debiting the asset account and crediting the cash or other appropriate account. So, as usual, when you record the replacement, you just debit the asset and credit the cash or accounts payable. Subsequently, the composite or group rate is multiplied by the balance of the asset account to get the periodic depreciation. Now, if naay replacement nga mahitabo class, the composite or group rate will not be changed. Ang ma-change lang ani will be your periodic depreciation. Kay magbag-o man ang imuhang total asset. Again, magbag-o man ang imuhang total asset. Okay? So, but still, you will be using the same composite or group rate. Okay? So, here's an illustration on the composite method. The following computation is necessary in determining the composite life and composite rate. So, we have the assets. Okay? Tulo ka buka tong asset. Building, machinery, and equipment. Now, their respective costs are 650,000, 220,000, and 100,000 respectively for a total of 1 million. And also, their respective residual value, 50,000, 20,000, 30,000 respectively, total of 100,000. So, since natay cost and residual value, the depreciable amount are 600,000 for building, 200,000 for machinery, equipment is 100,000. So, depreciable amount again is computed by getting the difference between the cost and the residual value. The respective useful life in years are 15 years, 8 years, 4 years. And the annual depreciation individually are 40,000, 25,000, and 25,000 respectively. Okay, how did we get the annual depreciation? Of course, that is depreciable amount divided by the useful life in years. Now, the question is, pila man ka years nimo siya i-depreciate? Okay? Would you depreciate it over 15 years? Kani nga grupo? Kani ba nga grupo, i-depreciate ba nimo siya over 15 years, 8 years, or 4 years? The answer is none of the above because ang number of years or the years that we will be depreciating the asset will be based on the composite life. Kung pila to iyahang composite life, mo po to ang number of years sa imuhang depreciation. Now, how to get the composite life? Again, composite life is equal to the total depreciable amount divided by the total annual depreciation. Total depreciable amount is 900,000 here. While total annual depreciation is 90,000. So, your composite life is 10 years. So, meaning to say, you will not depreciate the group of assets in 15 years, nor 8 years and 4 years, but rather for 10 years. Okay, so i-depreciate mo siya for 10 years. Next, composite rate. So, pila man natong composite rate? That is total depreciation divided by the total costs. So, that is 90,000 nga total depreciation divided by the total cost nga 1 million. So, our composite rate is 9%. So, meaning to say, the asset shall be depreciated every year equal to 9% of the total cost for 10 years. Sa sulod sa napulo ka tuig. And your annual depreciation is 9% of the total costs. Okay? So, that is the composite method. Now, continuation, what if the asset is being retired or one of the asset in the group is being retired? So, here's the journal entry. If the equipment is retired after 4 years and sold for 20,000. So, nabaligya siya for 20,000. So, I think the equipment costing 130,000 was sold at 20,000. So, again, pag na-retirement, you will credit the asset equal to the cost. So, diri ni siya dapita. Okay. Okay, credit na siya class ha. Then kani isumpa ilinya lang ning cash sa accumulated depreciation. So debit cash equal to the align sila dire. Equal to the salvage value 20,000 and the amount to be debited in the depreciation will be the balancing figure. If nag-credit ka og 130,000 as the cost of the equipment retired, and then nakay proceeds from the sale 20,000, therefore the amount to be debited in the accumulated depreciation is 100,000. Okay? Now if there is no proceeds from the retirement, okay, wala kay salvage value. So of course, if there's no salvage value, the amount or the cost of the equipment retired is also be the amount to be debited in the accumulated depreciation. And that is 130,000. And kani credit ni siya equipment 130,000. Okay? So that's for the composite or group method. Now let's proceed with the variable charge or activity method groups. Okay, so the variable or activity methods assume that depreciation is more a function of use rather than passage of time. Ang katong straight line, it's more on passage of time rather than function of use. Now, the use of these methods is based on the following. The assets depreciate more rapidly if they are used full-time or overtime. So, sa sige nimo og gamit daw. Okay? Sa sige daw nimo gamit sa asset, mas dako siya or mas more naga-depreciate ang isa ka asset. And there is a direct relationship between utilization of the asset and realization of revenue. So, when the asset is being or when the units of production is being produced and it is sold, okay, as you produce and sold more, the depreciation, okay, or the utilization of the asset is also higher. So, kung higher ang imuhang revenue, higher po daw ang utilization, and the utilization is represented by the depreciation. So, if the assets are used more extensively in the production, greater revenue is expected. Now, the useful life of the asset is considered in terms of the output it produces or the number of hours it works. So, kung sa equal or uniform nga methods, ang ginagamit nato ato nga useful life terms kay in years or in periods, diri as a variable charge are those output it produces or the number of units produced and the number of hours it works as your useful life. Thus, depreciation is related to the estimated production capability of the asset and is expressed in a rate per unit of output or per hour of use. So, mo ni ato ang, kumbaga, there will be a depreciation rate here. So, ang rate nato will be either per unit of output. So, pwede, pila imuhang depreciation per unit of output nimo or unit of production, or pwede po depreciation nimo per hour of use. Okay, so then the more the hours of use, the more the depreciation you are going to recognize. So let's have the illustration. So we have a machinery at cost 600,000. Residual value is none. So wala. So this 600,000 is also be your depreciable amount. And estimated useful life in years, 5 years. Service hours, 60,000 hours. So, meaning to say, maximum service hours na pwede nimo magamit ang ang kaninga machinery is for 60,000 hours. And output, the maximum output that can be produced with this machinery is 150,000 units. Okay? So, actual operation during the life of the asset, first year until the 5th year. So, mo ni ang ilahang actual service hours nga na-incur. 14,000, 13,000, 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 respectively, for a total of the maximum capacity niya nga 60,000. For output or the number of units, we have 34,000 units produced, 32,000, 25,000, 29,000, and 30,000 units produced respectively, for a total of the maximum capacity niya nga units production, 150,000 units. Okay? So, unsaon na to pag-compute sa depreciation? First is, we need to get the rate, depreciation rate niya. So, if we use the working hours method, okay, the working hours method, that would be depreciation rate is equals to the depreciable amount divided by the estimated useful life in terms of service hours or the maximum service hours karon. Now, that would be the cost of the asset or the depreciable amount niya, since we don't have residual value, is 600,000 less the maximum service hours of the machinery, 60,000 hours. Therefore, the depreciation rate is 10 pesos per hour. Again, for every 1 hour nga nagamit niya, it will constitute 10 pesos nga depreciation. So, this is our depreciation table for working hours. For year 1, the depreciation is 14,000 hours man to, no? Times 10. So, we have 140,000 nga depreciation. Accumulated depreciation on that year is 140,000. Same lang siya sa amount kay imuhang gi-recognize nga depreciation, since this is just the first year of the usage or utilization of the asset. And the carrying amount is equal to the costs less the accumulated depreciation. So, 600,000 ang cost minus accumulated depreciation nga 140,000. So, we have a carrying amount of 460,000. And the same process will go on the subsequent period. So, these are the depreciation. Ang imo lang buhaton, class, is you just multiply the depreciation rate by the actual operation niya. So, ang actual operations nato in service hours are this. Okay? So, you just multiply the depreciation rate by this actual service hours every year. Next, output method. So, sa output method, nagyapon tayo depreciation rate. Still, that is depreciable amount divided by the estimated useful life in terms of output or number of units. So, that is 600,000 as our depreciable amount, or equal to the cost since we don't have the residual value, divided by 150,000 nga maximum output niya. Therefore, the depreciation rate nato is 4 pesos per, okay, this is not R, but rather per unit. So, for every unit produced nila, it will constitute a 4 pesos depreciation. So, what you're going to do is you just multiply the depreciation rate by the actual units produced every year. And since on the first year, ang ihang actual na produce is 34,000, i-multiply lang siya by the depreciation rate. Therefore, the depreciation to be recognized on the first year is 136,000. Okay? Accumulated depreciation on the first year is the same as the depreciation on the first year, 136,000. And the carrying amount, again, is deducted or is computed by deducting the accumulated depreciation from the costs niya. So, we have accumulated depreciation at the end of the first year of 464,000. And, again, same application for the following periods. Until at the end of its useful life, the carrying amount will become 0. And it means that the asset is already fully depreciated. Okay? So, that is for the output method. So, medyo madali lang, no? You just get the depreciation rate and you multiply it by the actual units produced. Okay. So, that's for the variable charges or activity methods. Now, let's proceed with the third group, which is the decreasing charge or accelerated method. The decreasing charge or accelerated methods provides higher depreciation in the earlier years. So, mas dako daw ang depreciation in the early years of the life of the asset and lower depreciation in the later years of the useful life of the asset. So, meaning to say, ang trend sa iyahang depreciation is of course decreasing or pababa until the end of the useful life. The accelerated depreciation is on the philosophy that new assets are generally capable of producing more revenue in the earlier years than in the later years. So, mo na iyahang gina-follow nga philosophy nga. Samtang bag-o pa or samtang bata pa ang asset, mas gabi ang function niya, mas dako siya og utilization compared kung matigulang na siya or madugay na ang isa ka asset, kay mas lesser na ang iyahang production. Okay? So that's the philosophy of this group of methods. Now, what are those methods under this group? We have the SYD or the sum of years digit, declining balance method, and the double declining balance method. Now, let's have first the SYD or the sum of years digits. Now, the sum of years digits method provides for depreciation that is computed by multiplying the depreciable amount, okay, by a series of fraction whose numerator is the digit in the useful life of the asset and whose denominator is the sum of the digits in the useful life. Okay? Ano daw? Ang depreciation daw, ani, is equals to the depreciable amount times fraction. So, take note, series of fractions ni siya. So, meaning to say, it consists of more than one fraction. Now, pila man ka fraction karon, depende kung pila ka years ang life sa asset. So, if 4 years, pwede upat ka fractions. Okay? Now, unsa may form sa mga fractions nato ani karon? Like, say for example, kung 4 years. Okay? Kung 4 years ang life sa asset. So, unsa daw ang unsa daw ang fraction? So, ang fraction daw includes a numerator that is the digit in the useful life of the asset. So, unsa may digit ani? So, kung 4 years, ang digits kay 4, 3, 2, og 1. Nganong nagsugod man ta sa 4? It's because, again, declining man siya, no? So, mas dako ang depreciation nato sa earlier years niya. So, dapat muuna ta sa dako nga digit. So, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kung 10 years, okay, kung 10 years siya, then ang numerators nimo sa mga fractions, 10 fractions, kay 10 years man, that would be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, inana ang iyahang sequence. Now, unsa man ang denominator ani nila? So, dapat ang denominator nila kay the same para mag-similar similar fraction, di ba? So, similar fraction. So, ang denominator daw is the sum of the digits in the useful life. So, sum daw ani. So, i-add lang nimo 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 and that is 10. Okay? So, 10 ang imuhang denominator. Well, if shorter lang iyang life, walay problema, kay dali raman nato siya ma-add. But what if tag-as siya og life? So, how do you compute the sum of years digit to be the denominator? So, natay formula for the SYD. So, ang formula nato, life, bilang useful life niya, times, okay, quantity of the life plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, so say for example, 25 years. Of course, you will not do the manual computation no, sa SYD. Like, mag-add ka 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 until 25. So, malibog na kaana. So, simply, imong gamiton ang kanisya nga formula for getting the SYD for 25 years. So, that would be 25 as the useful life times the quantity of 25 plus 1. So, that is 26. 26 divided by 2, that is 13. Okay, so 25 times 13, the SYD is 325. So for 25 years, you have 25 fractions all in all, and its denominator will be 325. And you will start, of course, by the 25 nga digit. Okay, kay ano man, declining man. So your first fraction or the fraction for the earlier years will start at 25 over 325, second year, 24 over 325, and so on. Okay? So, kana siya. So, depreciable amount multiplied by this fraction. That will be the depreciation for each year. Okay? So, next, how about sum of half years digit? Okay? So, like say for example, 2.5 years siya. 3.5 years siya. So, naay half years. So, saan nato pag compute sa SYD? So, should we do the 1 plus 2 plus 0.5? Or is there any other way to compute for the sum of half years digits? Now, if the useful life of the asset is 2.5 years or 2.5 years, the procedure is to multiply the useful life by 2 to get the useful life of the asset in half years or half years. Okay. So, kumbaga, atua siyang i-whole term. Okay? Kaning fraction nga 2.5, i-convert nato siya into whole numbers. Okay? Whole numbers. So, unsaon man, you just multiply it by 2. Okay? Ituni mo siya. So, 2.5 or 2.5 years times 2, that is 5. Okay? So, whole number na siya, but it doesn't mean nga 5 years ang iyahang useful life. Okay? Dili pasabot nga 5 years ang iyang useful life. Still, 2.5 years lang siya. However, kaning 5, this represents the number of half years or semester ba, kumbaga. So, kaning 2.5 years, this represents or this will include 5 semesters or 5 half years. So, ato ading pag-depreciate will be on the basis of half years. Thus, okay, the useful life of the asset in half years would be 5. Now, the sum of the half years digit would be 15. Okay, 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Ano man na siya. Now, 15. Now, in the computation for the depreciation, since 2.5 years lang man siya, and of course, we depreciate it annually. So, pagka first year, duha ka fraction imuhang gamiton. Okay? So, anong duha ka fraction man? It's because this first year involves 2 half years. Okay? 2 half years. Take note, ato ang fraction is gibuhatan nato per half year. So, duha ka half year siya, kay in 1 year, there are 2 half years. So, ang first half year nato, ang fraction is 5 over 15, and the second one is 4 over 15. Now, for the second year, that is composed of 3 over 15 and 2 over 15. And for the third year, since 0.5 years lang man siya, isa lang po siya ka half year nga fraction, and that is 1 over 15. So, kani siya, kani nga kuan mo ni ang mag-represent sa imuhang depreciation for each period. Okay? So, that is for the sum of half years digits. Okay. So, next is this illustration. Assuming that the cost of the machinery is 430,000, the residual value is 30,000, and the estimated useful life is 4 years. So, compute for the periodic depreciation using SYD. So, una, kung sa natong SYD nato, so that is 4 times the quantity of 4 plus 1. This is 5 times, divided by 2. So, this is 2.5. 2.5 times 4, that is 10. Depreciable amount is 430 minus 30,000, that is 400,000. So, still, again, we will be excluding the residual value from the computation of our depreciation. Now, our SYD is 10. So, unsa may mga fractions nato? So, dara, mo ni ato ang fractions. 4 over 10 for the first year, 3 over 10 for the second year, 2 over 10 for the third year, and 1 over 10 for the fourth year. And this will be multiplied by the depreciable amount. So, ato ang depreciation karon will be 160,000, 120,000, 80,000, and 40,000 respectively. Okay? And dapat at the end of the useful life, napagyapon siya mabilin nga residual value as its carrying amount. Okay? Next, SYD pa rin pero fractional depreciation. Like say for example, the asset was acquired in the middle of the year. So, dili siya the usual one nga at the beginning of the year siya at the beginning of the year siya na-acquire. So, of course, dito po mag-start ang iyang depreciation. But this one, fractional depreciation, this will happen if the date of acquisition happened in the middle of the year. Okay? So, the cost of the asset is 300,000. There is no residual value. And the date of acquisition is April 1, 2020. And the estimated useful life is 3 years. So, the SYD is 6. Okay, that is 3 plus 2 plus 1, that is 6. Or simply use this formula. Now, the depreciation schedule for each year of the life of the asset. Okay? For the first year niya, okay, first year of life, now the first year will cover from April 1, 2020 to March 31, 2021. The second year will cover from April 1, 2021 to March 31, 2022. And the third year will cover April 1, 2022 to March 31, 2023. So, mo ang ilahang schedule of depreciation. 150,000 for the first year, 100,000 for second year, and third year, 50,000. However, ang recognition nato sa depreciation is usually if calendar year ta is every end of December 31. So, ang pangutana, how much will be your depreciation to be recognized every end of December 31? So, this is how the schedule will be. Computation of depreciation on a calendar period. So, for 2020, okay, ang 2020 ni mga depreciation will cover the portion of the first year of depreciation of the asset. That is 150,000 times 9 over 12. So, fraction lang gihapon kay ang 2020 nato will only cover from April 1 to December 31. And that is 112,500. For 2021, it will cover the rest of the first year, okay, the remaining 3 months of the first year, and the new, the first 9 months of the next or the second year nga depreciation. So that is 150,000 times 3 over 12, 37,500. And the first 9 months of the second year, 100,000 times 9 over 12, that is 75,000. For a total of 112,500. So this is the amount of depreciation you are to recognize for the year 2021. For 2022, it will cover the remaining of your second year rather. That is 100,000 times 3 over 12, 25,000. And the first 9 months of the third year of the life of the asset, 50,000 times 9 over 12. And that is 37,500 for a total of 62,500. And last but not the least, for the year 2023, that will only cover the remaining months of the third year. That is 50,000 times 3 over 12. That is 12,500. Okay? So this will be the amount that you will be recognizing as depreciation for the year 2023. So that is fractional depreciation. Okay? So let's proceed. So another method under the declining charge or declining methods nato or decreasing method is the declining balance method. So unsa may naa sa declining balance method? A certain rate is multiplied, okay? Every year of the life of the asset, a certain rate is multiplied to the declining carrying amount of the asset. Okay? So meaning to say, every now and then you are going to update the carrying amount, and whatever carrying amount na natunong ana for that particular year, that would be the basis for the depreciation. So a fixed rate or uniform rate is multiplied by the declining carrying amount. Okay? So i-multiply nimo ang fixed rate sa declining carrying amount of the asset in order to arrive at the annual depreciation. So the question is, how do we get the fixed rate or the uniform rate? So this is the formula for the declining balance. Okay? Pag declining balance class ha, this is the formula for the fixed rate. Fixed rate is equals to 1 minus to the nth root of the residual value divided by costs. Okay? So i-divide sa nimo residual value by the cost and i-nth root nimo siya. Okay? Now, the N here represents the useful life of the asset. So, ang N daw represents the useful life of the asset. Now, observe that the value of the asset cannot be reduced to 0. Or, shall I say, the costs. Okay? Kaning value or the cost. Okay? Kani daw siya, dili daw ni siya pwede mahimong 0 or reduce to 0. Ano man? Of course, sa rule sa math nato, pag i-divide mo ang isa ka number into 0, unidentified siya. So, meaning to say invalid siya. So, dili na siya ma-apply ang kanisya nga formula if the cost is reduced to 0. And the formula also cannot be used unless there is a residual value. Again, the formula here is only valid, okay, if na ay residual value. Pag walay residual value, then we cannot use this method. Kay dili mapud gahapon, di ba, pwede 0 ang imuhang what do you call this one? Dividend. No, dividend. Tama, dividend man ni siya. So, residual value nimo is the dividend. So, dili po pwede nga 0 ni siya. Okay? Kaya ma-invalid po or 0 gihapon ang quotient ani niya. Okay? So, kana siya. So, dapat naa siya residual value. Okay? So, example, the cost of the asset is 500,000 and the residual value is 50,000 and the life is 5 years. So, how to get the fixed rate? So, fixed rate is equals to 1 minus fifth root of 50,000, the residual value, divided by 500,000. So, this is 0.10. So, fifth root of 0.10, that is 0.632. I-minus siya sa 1, and therefore, the fixed rate is 0.368 or 36.8%. So, meaning to say, every year, you are going to depreciate the asset equal to 36.8% of the declining balance. Not the cost, but rather the declining balance. 36.8% of the declining balance. So, here's our depreciation table. So, 36.8%. So, sa first year, okay, sa first year, now, if you notice, unlike sa unlike sa SYD and other formula, we excluded the residual value, okay, from getting the depreciation. Like sa SYD, okay, 400,000 is the depreciable amount. So, wala na ilabot ang residual value ani. But for declining balance, and at the same time later on, sa double declining balance, ignore first the residual value. So, you will go directly or you will multiply the fixed rate initially equal to the total costs. Okay? Again, gi-ignore una nato ang residual value. Okay? Wala sa nato siya gi-minus. But rather, dapat lang at the end of the useful life of the asset, dapat naapay mabilin nga 50,000, which is the residual value of the asset. Okay? So, sa first year, ang fixed rate nato, gi-multiply nato sa cost initially. Therefore, the depreciation is 184,000. So, accumulated depreciation sa first year is the same as the depreciation, 184,000. And the carrying amount is 316,000. Now, mo ni ang nakalahi or specific sa declining balance is that every year, lahi-lahi imuhang basis. Okay? First is the cost. The second year will be the previous carrying amount. So, kung pila tayo mong previous carrying amount, mo to yung basis nimo sa depreciation. So, 316,000. Okay? So, mo na siya. Mo na po din mo gamiton sa second year. 36.8% times 316,000. Your depreciation for the second year is 116,288. So, your accumulated depreciation, i-add lang ni silang duha. That would be 300,288. And your carrying amount after the second year is 199,712. And of course, this will be the new basis na pud karon para sa next year nga depreciation. So again, nakabase ta sa declining balance. Okay? So, i-follow na to siya for the third year and fourth year. But for the fifth year, somehow, dili na nato siya ma-follow nga formula because, again, usually what we do at the end of or the last year sa iyahang life is naga-balancing figure na lang ta. Nga dapat, ang carrying amount sa asset will be equal to the residual value niya. Okay? So, at the end of the useful life, dapat na atay nabilin nga 50,000. So, among the cost of the, or out of the cost of the asset, dapat ang na-accumulate na nato nga depreciation is 450,000. Previously, or in the previous year, the accumulated depreciation is 420,000. Okay? 420,230. So, pila naman lang ang additional nga depreciation nato. So, mo lang to ato ang i-recognize nga depreciation for the last year. So, 450, para mahimutang 450 ato accumulated depreciation, pila naman dapat ang ato ang i-dugang sa previous nga accumulated depreciation. So, that would be 450,000 minus 420,230, that is 29,770. So, that will be your final depreciation. Okay? So, that is for the declining balance method. Again, residual value is ignored when computing the depreciation. However, final carrying amount should be equal to the depreciation. So, muna itong gibuhat kaganiha. Okay? Now, double declining balance. So, kung natay declining balance, napo tayo double declining balance. So, meaning to say, dili lang kay is fixed rate or dili lang kay the basic rate ato ang gamiton, but we have to double it or i-times 2 nato siya. But the rate here, the computation of the rate is different from the declining balance method. Kay simple lang ni siya ang double declining rate nato. Okay? Again, the process is the same as the declining balance method, that the fixed rate that we will be identifying is multiplied to the declining carrying amount. Ang nakalahi lang ani is the determination of your fixed rate. Okay? So, fixed rate nato is equal to the straight line rate. Okay? So, katong formula nato for the fixed rate kaganiha sa declining balance method is no longer applicable diri. Instead, ang gamiton na nato nga rate is the straight line rate. Then, i-times 2 lang nato siya. I-double lang nato siya. Now, how to get the straight line rate? Straight line rate is equals to 100% divided by the useful life. Now, if you have 5 years nga useful life, so that would be 100% divided by 5 years. So your straight line rate is 20%. Now the double declining rate niya is i-times 2 lang nato. So we have 40%. So mo ni imuhang fixed rate ang kaning 40% for a 5 years na useful life. Okay? So example, the cost of the asset is 500,000 and the date of acquisition is January 1, 2019. Residual value is 50,000 and the estimated useful life is 5 years. Now, to get the fixed rate or the double declining rate here, we get first the straight line rate. So, straight line rate is equals to 100% divided by the estimated useful life. So, we have 20%. Now, to double it, i-multiply lang by 2. So, that would be 40%. So, meaning to say, you will depreciate your asset equal to 40% of the declining balance. So, here's our depreciation table. Again, the same concept kaganya sa declining balance method nga, ang basis nato will be the declining balances. Okay? So, first year, of course, we will start with the cost. And again, we ignore the residual value. So, again, residual value is ignored. Okay? So, 40% ato ang double declining rate times 500,000. So, the first year depreciation is 200,000. Accumulated depreciation is the same as the first year depreciation, 200,000. Therefore, the carrying amount at the end of 2019 is 300,000. Same year, same process for the second year. This will be your basis for the next year's depreciation. So, 40% times the declining balance, 300,000. So, your depreciation sa 2020 is 120,000. Accumulated depreciation is 320,000. And carrying amount is 180,000. And again, parehas lang gihapon. Now, at the end of the useful life, same kaganiha that there's no need to do the same process, but rather, balancing figure na lang ta for the depreciation sa last year. Okay? Kaya dapat, ang carrying amount will be equal to the residual value naman of the asset. So, if your last year's depreciation is 435,200 and you're supposed to be accumulated depreciation at the last year of the life of the asset is 450,000 para naapa kay mabilin sa imong residual value, there must be, or the increase in the accumulated depreciation shall be your final depreciation. And that is 14,800. Okay? Or simply, this one, 64,800, i-minus lang nimo sa residual value, the same lang siya. 14,800. Okay? Again, the residual value is ignored when computing for the depreciation. However, the final carrying amount should be equal to the residual value. Okay. Kung natay double declining balance method, we also have 150% declining balance. So, kani siya, parehas lang siya process sa double declining. Galing lang, ang pag-compute nato sa yung fixed rate is not at 200% or times 2, but rather 150% lang sa straight line rate. So that is 150% declining balance. So as you can see, example, 5 years, the straight line rate is 20%. Therefore, the fixed rate is 30%. Kaya gi-multiply lang nato siya sa 150%. Now, subsequent to that, the process will be the same as the double declining. Again, at first, on the first year, you ignore the residual value. However, again, at the end of the life of the asset, dapat ang carrying amount niya will be equal to the residual value. Okay? So that is 150% declining balance. Okay. So we are done with the decreasing or accelerated method. So diri na ta sa other groups. Okay, other methods. Now, isa na dito ang inventory method. So, inventory method consists of merely estimating the value of the asset at the end of the period. So, ang kani siya nga method is the same as what we do on our inventory. Na i-accumulate lang nato ang cost sa inventory within the year, and we update the balance, and at the end of the year, i-compare na to siya sa iyahang fair value. Okay? Usually, the fair value or the net realizable value niya. And if there's a difference, so we have to adjust the carrying amount. Okay? And the adjustment will be charged to depreciation in this method for the depreciation. Now, the difference between the balance of the asset account and the value at the end of the year is then recognized as depreciation for the year. No accumulated depreciation is maintained. The depreciation is credited directly to the asset account. So, wala daw accumulated depreciation account ani. So, any decrease in the cost or the value of the asset shall be credited directly or charged directly to the asset account. So, say for example, an entity uses the inventory method to account for numerous small tools. The following transactions concerning small tools occur during the year. Total costs or tools account on January 1 or beginning is 100,000. Acquisition at costs is 90,000. Sale of used tools at residual value 2,000, and inventory tools on December 31 at costs is 125,000. Okay? So, saan man natin siya? Now, to record the acquisition of new tools, of course, we will be debiting the tools 90,000 and credit cash 90,000. Now, if there is a sale, okay, sale of used tools, the residual value shall be charged against the tools. Okay? Or i-credit mo ang tools equals to the residual value. So, the entity to record the sale of used tools is debit cash 2,000 and credit tools at 2,000. And to record the depreciation of the tools, okay, so balance of the tools is 188,000. How did we get 188,000? That is 100,000 plus 90,000 nga acquisition less the sale nga 2,000, so that is 188. That is prior to the adjustment. Okay? So 188,000. And the value of the tools at the end of the year is 125,000. So therefore, the depreciation is 63,000. So that is debit depreciation 63,000 and credit tools 63,000. So that is how you account under inventory method. Next is retirement and replacement method. So there are two kinds here, two kinds of methods. So una, retirement method. Okay, if you use retirement method, no depreciation is recorded until the asset is retired. So, dira lang daw ta mag-depreciate or mag-record of depreciation pag na ay asset nga gi-retire. And the amount of depreciation is equal to the original cost of the asset retired minus salvage value. Okay? Under the replacement method, no depreciation is recorded until the asset is retired and replaced. So, naay dugang. Aside nga i-retire nimo siya, naapoy replacement nga mahitabo. And the amount of depreciation is equal to the replacement costs of the asset retired minus salvage value. Okay? So, let's have the illustration. Now, the following data relate to the tools account for the current year. The beginning balance includes 1,000 units at 50 pesos per unit nga cost niya. So, we have a total of 50,000. And there was an acquisition during the year of 2,500 units at 70 per unit. So, total of 175,000. Retirement of tools, 1,200 units. And then proceeds from the retirement of tools, 5,000. Okay? So, we have to get the cost of the tools retired. Okay? Later on, makuha na to ang cost ana niya. Now, when using retirement method, this is how you recognize the depreciation. So, first is, you record the acquisition, of course, of the additional tools. So, you debit tools at 175,000 and credit cash at 175,000. And to account for the retirement, okay, so pag na-retire, dira na to i-recognize ang depreciation. So, debit ta og cash equal to the proceeds from the retirement, 5,000. And the depreciation again is measured at the cost of that asset retired minus the salvage value. Now, how did we get the costs of the asset retired nga 64,000? So, we used FIFO method. Okay? First in, first out. So, we will value the tools first sa katuuna nga ning sulod. Okay? So, ang first 1,000, okay, the first 1,000 shall be measured at 50 per units or per unit. So, that is 50,000. So, 1,200 man ka units ang na-retire. So, napay nabilin nga 200. So, ang 200 units will be valued on the next cost niya, and that is based on the new acquisition kani siya at 70 per unit. So, the 200 units will be valued at 70. So, that is 14,000 for a total of 64,000. So, you credit tools at its cost nga 64,000, and the difference of the cost and the salvage value shall be debited to depreciation, 59,000. So, that is your depreciation. Okay? That is for the retirement method. Now, how about replacement method? Okay? Now, sa replacement method, okay, under the replacement method class, kanidang acquisition nato, okay, shall be partly treated as replacement of this units retired. Okay? So, meaning to say, sa 2,500 nga na-acquire, 1,200 ana will be treated as replacement. Okay? And the remaining 1,300 will serve as new acquisition. Okay? Again, ang 1,200 daw ani, kaning 2,500 will serve as replacement of the tools retired. And therefore, the remaining, kwanto siya na? 2,500 minus 1,200 nga replacement. So, therefore, na ay 1,300. So, kaning 1,300, this will be treated as new acquisition. Okay, so muna ang bago nga acquisition lang, not the whole 2,500. So, how to account that one? to record the acquisition of tools in excess of the retirement, 1,300 times its cost nga 70, that is 91,000. So, debit card tools, 91,000 and credit cash, 91,000. And depreciation, okay, you will recognize depreciation equal to the replacement costs less the proceeds from retirement. So, kumbaga, wala na kay i-retire. Unlike sa retirement method, 'di ba, nag-credit ka og tools diri Okay? Nag-credit ka og tools. Under replacement method, no need or no more crediting of the tools. Wala na ka i-recognize nga retirement. Instead, diretso na ka for replacement. Okay? Pero ang replacement nato, ang atong i-recognize instead nga replacement is the depreciation. Okay? So, how did we get the depreciation? That is replacement cost of the tools retired. 1,2 times iyahang replacement cost. So, ang replacement cost ani niya, kung pila tong acquisition cost sa gipalit. And that is 70. Okay? So, 1,2 times 70, that is 84,000. Less proceeds from the retirement, nga 5,000. Therefore, the depreciation is 79,000. So, your entry would be debit, depreciation, 79,000, and credit cash, 79,000. Okay? So, that is for the replacement method. Okay. So, now we are done with the methods of depreciation. So, now, let's have the treatment of change in useful life and at the same time, change in the method or the depreciation method. So, how do we treat those changes? So, kaning change in useful life and change in depreciation method are treated as a change in accounting estimate. Again, both are treated as change in accounting estimate. So, saan man nato sila pag-account karon? So, the useful life of an asset, of an item of property, plant, and equipment shall be reviewed at least at each financial year end, and if expectations are significantly different from previous estimates, the change shall be accounted for as a change in accounting estimate. Now, again, ang ihang gi-point out there that even if we have already identified initially or originally the useful life of the asset, we still have to review regularly the useful life of the asset if it's still reliable ang kato nga nga useful life. Now, if such a case that every review ninyo is na ay changes, okay, such changes in the useful life shall be accounted as a change in accounting estimate. And therefore, the depreciation charge for the current year and future periods shall be adjusted. So, kung sa may mahitabo pag na ay change in the accounting estimate, should we adjust our depreciation in the previous years? The answer is no. No need to adjust. Ayaw na paghilabdi mo mga gipang recognize na mga depreciation in the previous year. Like say for example, naana ka sa ika-third year nga year sa asset. But sad to say, there's a changes in the useful life. So no need na nga i-change nimo tong first year and second year nimo nga depreciation. All you have to do is to change the current and the future depreciation. So ang i-adjust na lang nimo is ang current. So, instead nga 50,000 unta imuhang annual depreciation over the useful life, there's a possibility nga dili na 50,000 imuhang i-recognize starting this year until the end of its life. Okay? So, mo na siya. So, say for example, a depreciation costing or a depreciable asset costing 500,000 is originally estimated to have a useful life of 5 years. At the beginning of the third year, the original useful life is revised to 8 years. So, there was an extension. Okay? From 5 years, nga original useful life niya, it was found out that ang dapat niyang original life is 8 years. So, meaning there's an extension of 3 years. Thus, the remaining useful life is 6 years. So, prior to the change, at the beginning of the 3rd year, ang iyahang untang remaining life nga nabilin is 3 years. Diba? But, since na ay change sa iyahang original useful life nga nahimo siyang 8 years, instead nga 3 years na lang iyahang useful life, nahimong 6 years na. So, there was a change in the useful life there. So, i-account na to siya as change in accounting estimate. Now, the past depreciation is not corrected. Now, the procedure is simply to allocate the remaining carrying amount of the asset over the remaining revised useful life in order to get the subsequent annual depreciation. So, again, ay mong buhaton, instead nga, i-depreciate mo siya sa nahibilin nga 3 years, okay, i-adjust na nimo karon imuhang depreciation nga dapat, ang nabilin niya nga carrying amount shall be depreciated over the next remaining 6 years na life niya. Okay? So, say for example, do we have example here? Okay, like this one. Okay, sa kani, kung 500,000 ang iyahang cost and then 5 years iyang original nga useful life, the original depreciation computed is 100,000. So, every year, you will depreciate the asset at 100,000. So, since na may 2 years nga naglapse, ang accumulated depreciation na ani, at the beginning of 3rd year is 200,000. And therefore, the carrying amount at the beginning of 3rd year is 300,000. So, what will happen to the remaining carrying amount nga 300,000? So, kani siya. Again, the carrying amount at the beginning of 3rd year is 300,000. So, instead nga, i-depreciate na lang nimo ning 300,000 for the remaining 3 years. Ang buhaton nimo, you will depreciate the remaining 300,000 by the remaining 6 years. So, 300,000 divided by 6 years, starting the 3rd year, your annual depreciation is 50,000 and no longer the 100,000. Okay, di ba? Originally, imuhang annual depreciation is 100,000. Pero karon, starting 3rd year, ang imuhan ng annual depreciation is 500,000 rather. Okay? So, that is how we account the change in the useful life. Next would be change in the depreciation method. The same again, it is accounted as a change in accounting estimate and therefore, depreciation charge for the current and the future is or shall be adjusted. Parehas sila sa kuan. Parehas sila sa change in useful life. Kung initially naggamit kag straight line tapos subsequently nag-change ka into SYD, ayaw na tong hilabti itong mga depreciation nimo nga gi-recognize using straight line method. Instead, i-adjust na lang nimo imuhang mga subsequent depreciation nga magamit na ka og SYD. Okay? Say for example, in this case, the entity decided to change from SYD to straight line method of depreciation on January 1, 2019. Well, the asset is acquired on January 1, 2017, that is 2 years ago, at a cost of 1 million and had an estimated useful life of 4 years. Okay? So, starting sa January 1, 2019, ang imuhang depreciation should be under or using the straight line method. So, sa una nato buhaton, we need to update the carrying amount of the asset on this date sa change. Okay? So, pila man yung carrying amount on January 1, 2019. Initial cost niya is 1 million, less accumulated depreciation for the last 2 years is 700,000 using SYD. Sa first year niya, 400,000. Sa second year is 300,000. So, for a total of 700,000. So meaning to say, the carrying amount on January 1, 2019, which is the date of the change in the method, is 300,000. So what will happen next? How many years na nabilin? Take note, walay changes sa useful life ha. Ang na-change lang kay ang method. So ang nabilin sa iyahang life on the change of method is 2 years. Okay? 2 years ang nahibilin. So what will happen? Now, the procedure is simply to allocate the remaining carrying amount of 300,000 over the remaining useful life nga 2 years using the new method, which is the straight line method. So, your annual depreciation starting 2019 is 150,000. That is 300,000 divided by 2 years na remaining useful life. So, that is 150,000. So, wala na ka nagamit og SYD. Gigamit na nimo effectively ang straight line method. So, entry ani, debit, depreciation, 150,000 and credit accumulated depreciation at 150,000. Okay? So, that is how we account for the change in depreciation method. And so, that ends our discussion for this topic, depreciation. I hope that you have learned from this discussion and you could be able to apply this one in the future. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day. Bye.